Welcome. Hello. Hello.
World record. ARMY's explosive enthusiasm in Mexico breaks records as BTS visits the National Palace in CDMX. Hello ARMY. Welcome back again. Today, this is not just another BTS story. This is a story about history, emotion, and a moment so powerful that even people who were not ARMY could feel the atmosphere shaking with emotion. Because what happened in Mexico City that day was beyond anyone's imagination. The sky above CDMX was still slightly dark. The morning air still cold. But the streets around the National Palace were already overflowing with people. Thousands, then tens of thousands, continuing to arrive from every direction. Some came from Monterrey, some from Guadalajara, some even traveled from neighboring countries, all for one reason: to witness BTS entering the National Palace of Mexico. And the closer the hour became, the more unbelievable the atmosphere felt. Purple flags waved endlessly. BTS music echoed through the streets. Fans sang together loudly, some crying before BTS had even arrived. Because for Mexican armies, this was not just excitement. This was pride. The pride of finally seeing BTS officially welcomed inside one of the most important symbols of their nation. Many older fans stood beside younger fans. Parents came with their children. Friends hugged each other tightly. And everyone kept saying the same thing: "This feels unreal." Media from around the world crowded the area. Cameras pointed toward the palace gates. Reporters spoke nervously into microphones. Because everyone understood. This was becoming one of the biggest entertainment events Mexico had seen in years. Then suddenly, the crowd erupted. Screams exploded across the streets like thunder. People instantly lifted their phones into the air. And then, the black vehicles finally appeared, slowly entering the palace gates. The screams became deafening. Some fans immediately burst into tears. Others shouted the members' names over and over again. RM, Jimin, Jungkook, Taehyung. The energy was so intense that even security officers looked stunned. One by one, the members stepped out elegantly. RM looked deeply respectful as he observed the historic palace. Jin smiled warmly and waved toward the crowd. Suga gave a small bow. J-Hope's bright expression instantly energized the atmosphere. Jimin looked visibly emotional hearing the screams from outside. Jungkook kept glancing toward the fans with shy amazement. And then, Kim Taehyung stepped forward. The moment his face appeared, the entire area exploded into chaos again. The screams became so loud that several reporters paused speaking on live television. Some journalists laughed nervously because they could barely hear themselves anymore. Taehyung slowly looked toward the fans, taking in the ocean of purple around the palace. And then, he gently placed his hand over his chest before bowing respectfully toward the crowd. That simple gesture instantly made thousands emotional. Many fans cried even harder because they felt Taehyung truly understood how much this moment meant to them. Inside the palace, the atmosphere completely changed. Everything became elegant, historic, almost cinematic. Large chandeliers illuminated the grand halls. Traditional Mexican cultural decorations beautifully surrounded the area. BTS walked carefully through the palace corridors, admiring every detail. Several officials welcomed them warmly. But the biggest moment had not happened yet. Because deep inside the palace, the President of Mexico himself was waiting to personally welcome BTS. And when the members finally entered the ceremonial hall, everyone inside stood up respectfully. The atmosphere suddenly became emotional and quiet. The president walked forward with a sincere smile, shaking hands with each BTS member one by one. And surprisingly, the interaction did not feel cold or overly formal. It felt warm, human, genuine. The president smiled proudly while speaking to them, thanking BTS for bringing positivity, hope, and cultural unity to millions around the world. RM listened carefully, nodding respectfully. Jimin looked deeply touched, and Taehyung stood quietly with soft eyes, carefully listening to every word. Then came a moment that nobody expected to become so emotional. The president began speaking about the influence BTS had on young people, not only through music, but through messages of self-love, hope, and kindness. He explained that many Mexican youths found comfort in BTS during difficult times, especially during moments of loneliness and uncertainty. As translators delivered the message to the members, the atmosphere inside the hall became deeply emotional. Several staff members could be seen smiling softly. And then, Jimin lowered his head briefly, looking emotional. Jungkook blinked repeatedly while listening carefully. Even Suga's usually calm expression softened, because they realized their music had reached people far beyond language and borders. Then the president said something that made the entire room silent. He said, "BTS is not only loved in Mexico. BTS has become part of the emotional story of our young generation." For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The words felt incredibly sincere, and many people inside the room appeared genuinely moved. Then came the historic ceremony, a special honorary recognition prepared by the Mexican government for BTS as appreciation for their global cultural influence, their humanitarian impact, and the extraordinary connection they created with the Mexican people. The award was carefully brought into the hall, beautifully designed, shining beneath the palace lights. Cameras flashed non-stop. And when the president officially presented the honor to BTS, the entire room applauded loudly. Outside, meanwhile, fans watching through giant screens and live streams immediately became emotional. Some armies screamed. Others cried while hugging each other tightly, because they never imagined they would witness BTS receiving official recognition inside the National Palace of Mexico. RM accepted the award respectfully, then delivered a heartfelt speech. He thanked Mexico for its endless love, and promised BTS would never forget Mexican armies. Then RM softly said, "We are only 7 ordinary people. But because of ARMY, we can stand in extraordinary places like this." The atmosphere instantly turned emotional. Even several officials smiled warmly. Outside the palace, armies cried and cheered at the same time. Then the president personally thanked each BTS member one by one. When he reached Taehyung, he joked that Mexico had completely fallen in love with him. The room immediately burst into laughter. Taehyung shyly smiled and bowed politely. And during one brief ceremonial moment, Taehyung helped hold the president's microphone for a few seconds while staff adjusted the setup. But after photos spread online, social media instantly exploded. Taehyung holding the presidential microphone quickly became a worldwide